Whenever you're training at your max, sooner or later you reach the point where you can't complete another rep. This particular stage, where doing another rep seems impossible, is called muscle failure. But why stop there? Why not go beyond it? In this video, I'll cover some of the most effective techniques to take your training beyond failure. So, why should you train beyond failure? Number 1 is to maximize muscle growth. By fully exhausting your muscle fibers, you push your body to repair and grow bigger and stronger. Number 2 is to build mental toughness. Pushing beyond failure is a mental and physical challenge, making it easier to tackle challenging lifts. Number 3 is to break plateaus. If you're hitting a plateau, these techniques can help you by introducing a new stimuli to push your muscles towards further growth. Just keep in mind, these techniques are best suited for experienced lifters. They're intense, so limit them to once or twice per week and avoid using multiple techniques on the same muscle group in a single session. But when should you use them? If your progress with progressive resistance, whether it's increasing weights, reps, sets, technique, or time under tension, has stalled, it's a good indication that going beyond failure techniques could be the next step. These methods are designed to give your muscles the extra stimulus needed to break through plateaus. If you're new to progressive resistance, I recommend you to watch my other video on that topic first. It covers everything you need to know about building strength and size using fundamental methods. Before diving into advanced techniques like these, you'll find the link in the corner and pinned comment below. Now, let's walk through each technique. I'll explain when it's best to use each one, how to perform it, why it's effective, and which muscle group it's best suited for. Number 1. Drop sets. A drop set is when you perform a set to failure, then immediately reduce the weight and continue doing reps until you hit failure again. This cycle of dropping weight and continuing to lift allows you to push your muscles beyond their usual limits, making drop sets highly effective for muscle growth. The ideal is 1 to 3 drops per set. Each drop should be around 10 to 30% of the weight. While it may be tempting to continue dropping all the way to a very light weight, excessive drops, like going from 20 kilograms down to 2 kilograms, shows a diminishing returns. Studies by National Academy of Sport Science suggest not doing more than 3 drops per set for optimal benefit, as more reductions show no significant advantage. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. They work particularly well on isolation exercises like bicep curls and lateral raises, but can also be applied to compound movements like the bench press if form is carefully maintained. They're especially effective for smaller muscle groups like biceps, triceps, and shoulders, which fatigue quickly. Number 2. Partial reps. Partial reps involve performing an exercise over a limited range of motion rather than the full range. This technique lets you continue working a muscle even after you can no longer complete a full rep, helping you push beyond typical fatigue levels and target specific parts of the movement. After reaching failure on a full range of motion, switch to shorter, partial reps, focusing on the range where you can still maintain control. For example, if you're doing barbell curls and can no longer complete the full range, continue lifting as far as you can with good form. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. Partial reps are especially effective on exercises with a strong stretch component, such as incline curls, instead of standing curls, due to gravity, or cable lateral raises instead of dumbbells, for continuous tension on the stretched portion of the movement. Number 3. Cheat reps. After reaching failure with strict form, use controlled body momentum to complete additional reps. For instance, in a bicep curl, slightly swing your body forward to help lift the weight through the hardest part of the motion. Controlled cheating lets you extend the set by reducing the strict isolation on the target muscle, allowing it to keep working when it would otherwise be done. This technique adds extra reps, pushing the muscle to adapt to higher loads. The goal is to use just enough body momentum to complete the rep without sacrificing control or abandon form entirely with loose or reckless movements. Use them sparingly, no more than 2 to 3 reps after reaching failure with strict form. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. They work best for small to mid-sized muscles like biceps, triceps, and shoulders. They're effective on isolation exercises like bicep curls, lateral raises, and skull crusher, where a controlled amount of momentum can help lift the weight. Avoid using cheat reps on exercises requiring strict form and stability, such as squat or deadlift. Number 4. Negative reps. Negative reps focus on the eccentric or lowering phase of a movement, where the muscle lengthens under tension. During this phase, your muscles can handle more weight than in the lifting phase, making negative reps highly effective for building strength and muscle growth. In some cases, you can even load the weight heavier than you can normally lift and focus only on the negative part. Slowly lower the weight in a controlled manner, aiming for 5 to 10 seconds per rep. Aim for 2 to 4 negative reps after reaching failure on the standard set. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. They are ideal for larger muscle groups like the chest, legs, and back that benefit from controlled tension. They work especially well for movements like the pull-ups and dips, where you can easily get back to starting position without having to compromise form. Using cables like lat pull-downs or machines with spotter support also works well for safety and control. Number 5. Rest pause method. The rest pause method involves breaking a set into smaller mini-sets with very short rest periods in between. This technique allows you to push your muscles to near failure, briefly recover, and then continue lifting, which increases overall volume and intensity without requiring a full rest period. It's highly effective for building strength, endurance, and muscle growth. Aim to complete 6 to 12 reps with a challenging weight until you reach failure or close to it. Then, take a short rest period of 10 to 20 seconds to let your muscles partially recover before continuing to do as many additional reps as possible with the same weight. Repeat this cycle of short rest periods and mini sets 2 to 3 times to maximize fatigue. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. It's ideal for moderate weights and works best with stable, controlled movements such as lat pull-downs, seated rows, and hammer curls. These exercises allow you to safely push the target muscle to near failure, maximizing growth and endurance without risking form breakdown. Number 6. Cluster sets. Cluster sets involve breaking a single set into smaller, manageable clusters with brief rest periods between each cluster. This approach allows you to lift heavier weights for more reps than a traditional set, as the short rests give your muscles time to partially recover, which increases total volume and time under tension, boosting strength and power output. Choose a challenging weight and aim for 2 to 5 reps per cluster. Rest for 10 to 20 seconds between clusters. Repeat the clusters until you reach your target total, typically 8 to 15 reps across all clusters. Since the cluster sets rely on lifting heavier weights, use them early in the workout when you're fresh and can maintain good form. Cluster sets work best with compound movements like squat, deadlift, bench press, and overhead press, where you can maintain stability with heavier weights. They're particularly effective for large muscle groups such as the chest, back, and legs, which respond well to the high intensity and brief rests. Number 7. Myo-reps. Myo-reps is a technique that combines high rep activation sets with short rest pause mini sets. This approach allows you to reach and maintain muscle activation through a series of effective reps without performing an excessive number of sets. It's highly effective for maximizing muscle growth in a shorter time by keeping the muscle under consistent tension. Begin with an activation set of 12 to 20 reps using a moderate weight until you reach near failure. This primes the muscle and brings it close to full activation. After reaching near failure on the activation set, rest for 10 to 15 seconds. Then, perform a mini set of 3 to 5 reps with the same weight. Repeat the mini sets with short rests between each until you can no longer complete the target reps with good form. Aim for 3 to 5 mini sets after the activation set, depending on your level of fatigue and muscle engagement. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. Myo-reps are particularly effective on isolation exercises such as bicep curls, leg extensions, tricep extensions, and lateral raises, where you can safely control form even as fatigue builds. Ideal for smaller muscle groups like biceps, triceps, shoulders, and single joint exercises. Number 8. ISO holds. ISO holds, or isometric holds, involve holding a muscle in a contracted position without moving it through a range of motion. This technique keeps the muscle under constant tension for an extended period, enhancing endurance, strength, and mind-muscle connection. ISO holds are effective for building stability in key muscle groups and increasing time under tension, which promotes muscle growth. After completing a regular set, hold the weight or position in a contracted state for 10 to 30 seconds. For example, in a hammer curl, hold the weight at the midpoint of the curl, where the biceps are fully engaged. Focused breathing helps maintain tension and control. I recommend placing them toward the end of the workout, after completing your primary compound lifts. ISO holds are particularly effective in exercises where holding a contraction is natural, such as bicep curls, holding at 90 degrees, goblet squat, or pull-ups. Number 9. Pre-exhaustion supersets. Pre-exhaustion supersets involve performing an isolation exercise for a specific muscle group, immediately followed by a compound exercise that targets the same muscle. This technique pre-exhausts the muscle with the isolation exercise, so it's already fatigued when you move to the compound movement. By doing this, you ensure the target muscle is working to its fullest potential during the compound exercise, maximizing muscle activation and growth. Begin with an isolation exercise that targets the specific muscle you want to pre-exhaust. Immediately follow the isolation exercise with a compound movement that also engages the target muscle but recruits additional muscles for support. For example, after dumbbell flies, move to bench press, or after straight arm pull down, do pull-ups. Aim for 8 to 12 reps on the isolation exercise, followed by 6 to 10 reps on the compound exercise. Then, take a full rest before starting the next superset. Pre-exhaustion supersets are best done at the beginning or middle of your workout. They're great for days when you want to prioritize specific muscles for growth. They are ideal for muscle groups like the chest, back, and legs, which benefit from pre-fatiguing isolation exercises before engaging larger supporting muscles in a compound lift. Number 10. Post-exhaustion superset. Post-exhaustion supersets involve performing a compound exercise first to engage multiple muscles, immediately followed by an isolation exercise that targets the same primary muscle. Unlike pre-exhaustion, where the isolation exercise comes first, post-exhaustion starts with the compound lift while the muscle is fresh. This approach lets you lift heavier on the compound movement, maximizing strength, before fully fatiguing the target muscle with the isolation exercise. Begin with a compound exercise that activates multiple muscles with a focus on the target muscle. Immediately follow the compound movement with an isolation exercise that focuses directly on the target muscle. For example, after squats, perform sissy squat, or after seated row, do bicep curls. Aim for 8 to 12 reps on the isolation exercise and another 6 to 10 reps on the compound exercise. Then, take a full rest before starting the next superset. They work well at the start or middle of your workout, allowing you to lift heavy on the compound movement before moving to the isolation exercise to finish off the target muscle. They are ideal for larger muscle groups like the chest, back, and legs, which benefit from high-intensity endurance, where muscle isolation can be followed by powerful compound exercises. Let's quickly go over some final tips for using beyond failure techniques. Because these techniques are so demanding, it's best to use them occasionally, ideally once every week, and limit them to 1 to 2 exercises per workout due to their intensity. They're designed to help break through plateaus, not to be used in every workout. Going beyond failure places extra stress on your muscles and nervous system. Make sure to allow for adequate recovery time. These techniques can cause significant muscle soreness, so give yourself time to rest and rebuild. The majority of us haven't even discovered their true failure. Let's say you're doing 5 pull-ups at your very max. Imagine a man comes in with $1 million in his hand if you do 1 more rep. Could you do it? Use these advanced techniques sparingly and with caution. They're best suited for experienced lifters aiming to break through plateaus. Check out these videos if you want to learn more. Until next time, verið sæl.